those folks have killed over 5,000 of our own people fighting their dumb wars. If they're willing to make that sacrifice of our lives for their profits, why can't you believe they would also sacrifice 3,000 in the World Trade Centers?
We're up against something that isn't mentioned much. The psychologists call it cognitive dissonance. That means when you're confronted with something that violates your preconceived notions so greatly, you put it out of your mind.
Right.
You use every excuse you can think of to fool yourself into believing the elephant isn't in the living room.
Right.
Yeah, well, that's true. I go around trying to create cognitive dissonance because without it, people are just fat, dumb, and happy and going down the tubes.
Right.
And so I love to create cognitive dissonance because it's the only way sometimes to get people, the next time they see something about it, they look at it a little differently, they think about it a little bit. You got to create that first before you can convert people to actually wanting to look at the truth. But, you know, it's like I say every time I go to preach in church, I warn the parishioners, Jesus came to comfort the afflicted. I came to afflict the comfortable.
That says it pretty clear. And we better be successful, otherwise our future is in danger.
Yeah.
And do you have hope, Tom, that we can turn this around?
I certainly do. I wouldn't be here if I didn't. I'd be off on a mountaintop somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, contemplating my navel.
Why?
I know we can. Well, there are a lot of reasons, including the fact that the alternative is just too gruesome to think about. But it's happened a lot in the past, and if you look at civilization over the long haul, there have been ups and downs, but the trajectory is up. And I believe that this experiment, this republic of ours, with a touch of democracy mixed in, is going to succeed and is going to get back to its roots, is going to start following the Constitution, honoring the truth, and serving the people. Because that's the kind of government we're supposed to have, and that's the kind of government we must have again, and we will. I'm not sure how fast it'll happen. It may not happen in my lifetime, but it will happen. And, you know, if it means that the United States of America as we know it goes away and something else rises out of the ashes, that something else will be better yet. But I think our Constitution is an inspired document, and I would like to keep it going. There's a lot of people who say, let's have a constitutional convention and improve things, and I say, hell no. Yeah. Let's just start abiding by the Constitution we have.
The way it's
That's
written.
A good first step.
It's a pretty good document to begin with.
And the only kind of a change that I would like to see, an amendment that I would like to see, which would really help in this instance, is one that restores the original intent of the Founding Fathers and writers of the Constitution. For example, I have long proposed an amendment which says, corporations and other fictitious entities are not persons under this Constitution and shall have none of the rights and privileges thereof. Period.
Isn't that a simple statement?
Isn't that simple? And it's exactly what our forefathers intended. Corporations didn't even exist. They were creatures of the states, chartered for a specific purpose for a short period of time to accomplish something, build a bridge or whatnot, and then go out of business. The modern corporation is something that was never intended, and they certainly shouldn't have so-called First Amendment free speech rights to spend as much money as they want buying up elections and voters and legislation.
And they're immortal. And if they do something wrong, you can't put them in jail.
That's right. That's right. So, those are the kind of things that need fixing. But Constitutional Convention, no, because I'm afraid they'd throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Right.
You know, Bob, I've heard you speak many times, and you're one of the few speakers I've heard who can really resonate with what I will call both the right and the left. Two different extremes who I think have been being played against each other. But I think we really have common cause. Why don't you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, we have been artificially divided all this time between Republicans and Democrats, conservatives and liberals, right and left. And they do that on purpose so that we don't get together and resist them, the big money interests who are running the government. And the way they do that is to divvy things up between the political parties, both of which they own. And they get the Republican leadership and the Democratic leadership, and they take things and say, okay, you guys be for abortion, you be against it. You be for school prayer, you be against it. You be for gay rights, you be against it. You be for gun control, you be against it. And the thing that all those have in common, besides the fact that the federal government probably has no business mucking around with them in the first place, is that the wealthy elite could care less how it turns out. Those things do not affect their bottom line.
Right.
They just don't care. But on issues that matter to them, signing a trade deal to drive down wages and drive up profits, going to war to secure an oil and gas pipeline, those things, they make sure both major political parties are as one.
Right.
And we have seen that time and again. After all, it was Bill Clinton's administration that gave us NAFTA. It was Al Gore, the hero of the environmental movement, who was Clinton's hatchet man to cram NAFTA down the throats of a reluctant Congress. We've seen it time and again that when it comes to those kinds of issues, and you know, it was Clinton's responsibility for the rape of Yugoslavia, and 70 continuous days of bombing, violating the War Powers Act, violating the Constitution, violating 2 votes of Congress who did not give him the authority to go to war against Kosovo or Yugoslavia or any of them. Those things we have to remember when we look back and we say, oh, George W. Bush was the worst president we've ever had. And I think he probably was. And he did more to undermine true conservative principles of fiscal responsibility and avoidance of foreign military entanglements and protection of the individual rights of Americans. The Bush administration did more to destroy all 3 of those pillars of conservatism than all previous administrations and all our enemies combined. But as bad as that was, we can't get into thinking this is a right-left, conservative Republican or Democrat Republican issue, because the Democrats have been guilty of all the same things, just with a smile and a wink and a gentler tone. And so we need a complete change. We need to get the corporations out of ruling our government. We need to separate big money and political power, because when those two get together, you've got fascism.
Right.
And we need populism. We need a government that serves the people. Abraham Lincoln, of the people, by the people, for the people. That must be our objective.
Well, it's like 9/11 being such a big lie,
Yeah.
and to initiate this new, it's like a coup d'etat, and you're saying all these politicians are controlled.
Yeah.
That's probably why we work on 9/11, because it can have the opposite result if we can expose it.
Yeah.
And we're talking more than just about 9/11 or one administration or another. We're talking about the history of our country, and especially into the 1800s, when corporations got some human rights, and the courts and the corruption has gotten deeper and deeper. But what do you think is the best way of exposing this big lie? So, and do you think that by exposing 9/11, what would result? I'd be curious.
I think the country would change completely for the better. People would see that, oh my God, the Muslims are not the enemy.
Right.
They would see that those wars in which we've sacrificed so much and so many of our people were to serve the financial interests of a wealthy few. They will have seen that they had been had. Their eyes will be open to the fact that the wages of ordinary Americans today are 1/3 of what they were in the 1950s. That all the wealth has been sucked to the top by the Fed, by the interest, by all of this, and by them owning